Reed Richards, also known as Mr. Fantastic, is one of the founding members of, well, the Marvel Universe, really. He's also deeply ingrained with the concept of alternate universes and the Marvel multiverse as a whole, so just who are some of these parallel versions of Mr. Fantastic? Hello and welcome to the show with issues. I'm Auram, and in just a few days, Fox's Fantastic Four reboot will be released to the world. So I decided to get in the spirit of things with a parallel segment on the man himself, Reed Richards. We've got a big list to get through, so let's get started. First up on our list of parallel Reed Richards is Reed Richards of Earth 721, also known as Earth A. In this universe, only Reed and Ben Grimm piloted the ship to space that would give them their powers. As a result of this, Reed mutated into the Thing, while Ben gained the abilities of Mr. Fantastic and the Human Torch. Reed, disgusted by what he had become, exiled himself to an island, where he designed robots to mimic the various eras of Earth's history. After a run-in with the Thing of Earth 616, Reed recovered from his depression and founded a company, aptly named Reed Richards Robotics. He was eventually tricked into selling the company to an establishment called Interrelated Technocracies. Reed worked for them for a while until he learned of their nefarious plans to pit worlds against each other in nuclear war, and decided that he should contact the Thing of Earth 616 for help. The Fantastic Four of 616 received the cry for help, and they, along with Reed, overthrew Interrelated Technocracies. The Fantastic Four returned to Earth 616, and Reed went back to developing tech for his company. I find this version of Reed pretty interesting. It's probably just because he's the Thing in this universe and still has all the intellect and drive of Reed Richards, but I still find it cool. Anyway, next up is the Reed Richards of Earth 311, also known as Marvel 1602. Richard Reed, also known as Mr. Fantastic with a K, was a brilliant scientist ahead of his time. He seems to be just as smart as the Reed Richards of Earth 616, which allowed him to develop uses for electricity, categorize sciences, amongst other things in the quaint time of 1602. He was also the leader of the Four from the Fantastic Four of this universe, if that wasn't obvious enough. His drive and thirst for explaining everything through science caused rifts between his wife and friends, which eventually led to his being captured by Count Otto von Doom. Doom forced Richard to research and experiment on a relic that Doom thought would give him powers. The Four were rescued by Nicholas Fury and traveled with him to the New World. Later in the New World, Doom captured William Shakespeare and forced him to chronicle his journey to Benzylam, this universe's Atlantis, where he would try and fix his face. The Four caught wind of Shakespeare's being kidnapped, which caused them to follow Doom to Benzylam. Everyone converged on the city, where all hell broke loose. The city began to rise into the air, and soon after, Uatu the Watcher appeared. Reed saw Uatu, and this restored his faith in things not being explained by science. Benzylam fell and began to sink, and the Four escaped back to England. I guess it's also worth mentioning that Reed, along with the rest of the Four, got his powers on a boat called the Fantastic, after being hit with a wave of energy. Now for a change of pace with a Reed Richards that really doesn't have a home reality. Reed Richards, also known as the Dark Raider, is from Earth 944, a reality where Galactus devoured Earth. Reed blamed himself for this misgiving and decided it would be best to travel from reality to reality, killing every version of himself in existence. The Fantastic Four of Earth 616 first got wind of the Dark Raider when they witnessed him killing younger versions of themselves from an alternate universe. After this encounter, the Dark Raider attempted to travel to 616 to kill the Fantastic Four, but was stopped by the Watcher. Oh, and this Watcher isn't Uatu, it's Auram the Rogue Watcher, because comics. The Dark Raider eventually returned to Earth 616, where he was transported to the Negative Zone and killed by Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman. What's interesting about this version of Reed Richards is his power level. He's way more powerful than the Mr. Fantastic for Earth 616, for instance. His cells are extremely malleable, which allows him to not only stretch, but to change the makeup of his body and shapeshift to an extent. This isn't a Power Hour segment though, so let's move on. Okay, time for the big one. Reed Richards of Earth 1610, the Ultimate Universe. Reed Richards, born to Gary Richards and his wife, exhibited brilliant intellect at extremely early ages. In fact, when he was just 10, he began working on schematics for a device that could teleport objects to another dimension. He successfully teleported a small toy car at one of his middle school science fairs, which caught the attention of the government. They asked him to join a think tank based in the Baxter Building where he could work with other brilliant, like-minded young people. This is where he was introduced to Dr. Franklin Storm and his kids, Sue and Johnny. He continued his research on his teleportation device, which eventually sprouted into a transporter to the End Zone, another dimension that rested just below the Earth 1610 universe. While working on this project, Reed met another student named Victor Van Dam. Reed realized Victor was just as smart as he was, and invited him to work on the End Zone project with him. They continued to work on the transporter until it was ready to test on organic material for the first time. They set up a platform where they would transport an apple to the End Zone, but Victor tampered with the coordinates and ended up teleporting himself, Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben Grimm away. In the End Zone, they all gained powers, not unlike their 616 counterparts, but were soon transported back to Earth. After finding and being defeated by Victor in the newly founded Latveria, the Four went back to the Baxter Building, where they eventually went public with their identities as the Fantastic Four. Later, after the ultimatum wave, Reed realized that Doom wouldn't be stopped and convinced the Thing to kill him, which he successfully did. This, in combination with the death of Franklin Storm and a falling out between Sue and Reed, caused the Fantastic Four to disband. Reed was left to his own devices and went to live with his family. He slowly went insane and eventually blew up his house, killing his family and faking his own death. Reed assembled an army of alien creatures which he commanded to viciously attack the Baxter Building, the Triskelion, Roxxon, and even Peter Parker's home. He invaded the Triskelion and was caught tampering with objects from Project Pegasus. Project Pegasus was basically an initiative to keep objects of unknown origin locked away and safe. He was pulled into the End Zone portal, which he had created, and was defeated by the Ultimates. After floating around aimlessly in the End Zone for a while, Reed returned to Earth where he created the Dome and the Children of Tomorrow, which were basically an effort to perfect the world. Around this time, he assumed the identity of the Maker and donned his new costume and helmet. Later, after a run-in with the Ultimates while trying to assemble the Infinity Gauntlet, he was captured and put into the supervillain prison known as the Cube. I guess I should mention that Reed was trying to assemble the Infinity Gauntlet at their quest of Kang, who is trying to stop her universe from being destroyed. Reed stayed in prison for a while until Galactus of Earth 616 invaded the universe. Reed thought it would be best for him to break out of prison and help the Ultimates defeat Galactus. After defeating Galactus, Nick Fury offered Reed a position at S.H.I.E.L.D. where he would predict any future threats and create plans to neutralize them. Unbeknownst to Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D., however, the Maker still continued his plans with the Dome and Children of Tomorrow. This led to his discovery of the incursions, him destroying other Earths to save his, and meeting the Cabal of Earth 616. The Maker, along with the Cabal, created a life raft that would save them from the final incursion. Thanos convinced Fury that to save their universe he would have to kill all of the heroes from 616. Fury agreed and launched an all-out war against 616 when the final incursion hit. This is where the events of Secret Wars begin to unfold, and I won't really get into that much since it's still very fresh and we don't know the fate of the Maker yet. This version of Reed Richards, at least to me, is terrifying. Especially reading about him before he becomes the Maker, knowing his fate. I've been reading through Ultimate Spider-Man, and Reed makes frequent appearances, and let me tell you, it's pretty spooky seeing him obsess over every little villain or science anomaly they come across. But those are all the Reed Richards I have for you today. I guarantee you I missed some pretty cool ones. There are a whole pantheon of the guys. In fact, there's a storyline where Reed from 616 meets an entire council of alternate versions of himself that have left their universe to tackle threats to the multiverse as a whole. Talk about Reed Richards and his fancy alternate takes in the comments. First week of my birth month. Yay! I'll be getting 6 titles including Civil War issue 2, Miss Marvel issue 17, and Ultimate End issue 4. Yes, I'm still buying Ultimate End. It's really confusing, but it's just so intriguing at the same time. The rest of my pull list is in the description. But that's it for this week. Once again, lots of fun, and I'm really glad I was finally able to talk about the terror that is the Maker. Anyway, thanks for watching. Next time, I inject my brain with some chemicals that make it grow huge, but at the same time, I become smarter.